Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Seepersod coming to you from the campus of Binghamton University. And on behalf of the Alumni Association, I'm very excited to welcome you to today's program, Writing Your Next Chapter, Navigating Career Changes. This webinar is part of the Binghamton Learning Network webinar series. And we know that the number one thing that you need from us as an Alumni Association is programming related to career, professional, personal development. And today's webinar is a big part of what we do, and very happy to provide this service to you. So one thing I want to point out before we dive into our topic for today and introduce our three featured panelists, I want to go ahead and pull up this banner here, which has the Alumni Association homepage URL, binghamton.edu/alumni. The reason I point this out, when you go to our homepage, you're going to see one of the links pretty much front and center on the page with a little bit of scrolling down to find it, but it won't take you very long. It's called Career Central. Now, this is something that we launched pretty recently within the last couple of weeks because we know that a lot of alumni are undergoing career transitions. Of course, that's the reason for today's webinar, but we also want to have this content available on an ongoing basis because we know there's tremendous need for it, whether it's a career transition that you initiated or maybe not as pleasant if it's something that was sort of forced upon you, that you have a need for things like past webinars on career development. And certainly we have links to those. You can go ahead and watch those at your leisure. Links to our two Alumni Association groups on LinkedIn, links to job boards and all sorts of other things that you'll find helpful. So binghamton.edu/alumni, scroll down just a touch and you'll see that link for Career Central, and go ahead and check that out after the webinar today. It should have a lot of great resources that will only add to what it is that our three panelists will be talking about over the course of the next hour or so. And it's not a hard stop on our end at 1 o'clock Eastern. If the questions keep coming and there's great energy, we'll certainly keep it going and make sure that you leave the program with your questions answered. On to the questions. If you have something that you'd like to ask of one of the presenters or more than one, I'll pull this up here, and you'll see this graphic up from time to time during the show as well. sseepers@binghamton.edu. You can email questions to me. Start now if you want, or just anytime during the hour, and we'll take the questions from you and get these answered toward the end of the program, roughly in the last 15 minutes or so. sseepers@binghamton.edu. If you're watching on Facebook or the microsite, type your questions in the comment box, and we'll be checking out the questions there throughout the next hour, and we will mix these in as soon as we're reasonably able to do so. So having gone ahead and dispensed with the housekeeping, let's go ahead and bring in our three featured panelists and put them all up here on the screen. And one by one, we'll go ahead and introduce, each one of them will introduce themselves, say hello to Felicia Morera, Dana West, and Dan Black, our three featured panelists for today, and just take about 30 seconds or so, each of you, to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and what you'll talk about. And we'll start with you, Felicia.
Sure. Thank you, Steve. I'm Felicia Morera, currently serve as the Vice President of Binghamton University's Alumni Association Board of Directors. And also here at the Fleischman Center at Binghamton University, the Career Center, I am the Associate Director for Employer Engagement. So happy to be here today from Binghamton.
Thank you, Felicia. And Dan, you are up next.
Great. Thank you, Steve. And hi, everyone. My name is Dan Black, 94 grad from SOM. Currently serve as the secretary of the Alumni Association Board of Directors alongside Felicia. And my day job, I work at EY, Ernst & Young. For the lion's share of my career, I led global talent attraction acquisition, so recruitment. I currently serve as the head of talent strategy globally for EY today.
Great. Thank you. And Dana.
Thanks, Steve. I'm Dana West, class 98. I'm a CFP, certified financial planner. My ongoing duties to the university, I am leading the Westchester chapter. So if you're in my area, look forward to seeing you at a local event. I'm on the board of directors of the Alumni Association, currently the chair of the Lifelong Learning Committee, and it's a pleasure to join you. Thanks, Steve.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And so that basically will be the order of presenters. We'll have Felicia first, then Dan and Dana. So Dan and Dana, we will send you backstage temporarily, but we will come back to you at the appropriate time. And so Felicia, we will turn it over to you and get your slide deck up, and away we go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Steve. It's wonderful to be with you all today. And thank you for the introduction, Steve, and pulling up the slides we'll go through. I'll be spending about the next 15 minutes or so giving a brief overview of some employment trends we're seeing and the Fleischman Career Center offerings to help out, totally free, complimentary for our alumni of Binghamton University. So I want to extend a warm welcome, and I know I speak for all of us today on this panel when I say we're truly excited to share this hour with you. I've included this little photo of the clock tower here with some spring flowers in bloom. It's starting to finally feel like a bit like spring here in Binghamton, and I think it's also representative of the conversation we're set out to have today, right? I know career transitions, especially during uncertain times, can really feel overwhelming a bit, not unlike Binghamton winters. And to those of you listening in that may relate to this statement, your Alumni Association hears you and you're not alone. We're here to help and provide support as you navigate this next season in your journey. Whether you're facing a layoff or exploring a new direction, or simply just like reassessing your goals, we know that career journeys are rarely linear, and that's okay. Today, I'll share some of the key employer trends we're seeing, along with some practical advice, hopefully to make you feel more confident and empowered in your search. So let's dive in. As I said, I'm Felicia Morera, so dual roles here, currently Vice President of the Alumni Association Board, and also in employer engagement here at our Career Center, Fleischman Career Center at Binghamton University. And in my role here at the university, I have the great privilege of connecting regularly with a diverse range of employers across different industries. So today I want to share what I'm hearing, trends that are shaping hiring decisions, what skills are in demand, and how you can best position yourself as a strong candidate in today's evolving market and the environment. Then I'll wrap up with some resources available to you as Binghamton University alum. Okay, so go over a little bit of the agenda here today. I think first it goes without saying the landscape around hiring, employer trends, and workplace policies is definitely shifting fast, right? When we first started planning this panel about a month ago, I had several different angles in mind and things I wanted to talk about. And, things are evolving almost daily. What we touch on today, especially in terms of trends, may only be relevant for a short time. But with that being said, I think the current period of wait and see seems like it may be stick around for a bit longer. And then second, we're just beginning to scratch the surface today on my topic. And our goal for this is really to open up the conversation, share some helpful resources, and then offer a bit of direction and support because we know how complex and personal a career transition can be. So we're going to be talking about what's trending, skills over titles, and then I'll give you some resources from our Fleischman Center that hopefully will help support you in whatever journey you're on. And then Dan Black will take it over. So to start out, some different things that are trending, obviously with the federal layoffs, I did a lot of research in our employer team as a whole at the Fleischman Center has, and we have a role here that's an industry specialist in government and non-for-profit specifically. And I had a lot of conversations with the person in this role because this is the area that is really being impacted, at least immediately. And one of the things that this person has been seeing in going to a lot of different conferences, traveling around the state, and talking with local leaders as well, is that a big shift from federal, obviously, to state and local government. I'm sure many of you that reside in New York have seen the campaign that Governor Hochul has with the federal workers. We want you. These little flyers, little quarter sheets being passed around with the Statue of Liberty pointing. Really with the message being that newly laid off or just federal employees or just anybody, come join New York, come to us. We want you. You're hired. New York State is really showing that they have more than 7,000 current job openings, and this is over a wide range of career fields. They're showing the vast array of benefits that are offered in a lot of these, including leading paid parental leave policy, flexible schedules, competitive salaries, showing the different regions of New York. So just an overall campaign to push people in our direction. And New York is not unique in that way, but just by the nature of where we are, where our alumni are, that's one that I wanted to focus on. But I think overall nationwide, there's the trend away from federal and to the state and local government. One way to keep updated on all of these changes, because like I said, they do change so often, is to follow these organizations on social channels for updates and webinars and trainings. A lot of them offer free or very low cost just to get this latest information out. One is Nonprofit New York. Those members now have free access to a unique software platform called Impala. And this platform shows how social impact is funded, measured, and also achieved. And it does this by providing access, actionable insights in nonprofits, grant makers, and networks through their unified platform. So Nonprofit New York is a big one. Partnership for Public Service also, their events. You can view upcoming webinars, different events they have going on, and diverse hiring opportunities. So that's a really great resource. There's a lot of different webinars up on that site right now if you go under their events pages. And also, while we're talking about all these industries that the jobs are shifting away from, there's a good amount of industries that are still showing signs of stability or even growth. For example, healthcare, technology, right? AI, cybersecurity, et cetera, where maybe shifts are away from manufacturing and alternative energies like wind and solar, maybe those have declined. So I think check government funded job training programs for career transitions also. The next bullet that I wanted to talk about is uncertainty and the wait and see period. And I think this is where we talk about the private job market and how it's somewhat frozen as federal layoffs go into effect. And unemployment rate is likely to increase because these private sectors are not hiring quickly enough to absorb it. And one of the biggest reasons is the uncertainty about it. What will the economy look like in the next month, let alone 6 to 9 to a year from now? So when these jobs aren't abundant, people are less likely to leave and creating fewer openings, obviously, in this trickle down effect. So it results in everybody in this wait and see period of what's going to happen next and how do we react. Also, those employees that are in good roles right now, they're not leaving, right? And so there's a lot of applicants for any new job postings that are out there. Some positive takeaways, however, from all of this is while job creation is not likely to occur in federal government and is not high in corporate spheres, job openings could potentially come from a healthier labor market where people are leaving for better jobs or receiving internal promotions. The next point is the tariffs, right? Something we definitely hear a lot about, and the talk of tariffs also kind of, we see the effects of it daily in the stock market. So the higher prices for items. Also talk of manufacturing, it can move back to the US, but how long will this take? Is this something that's going to happen immediately, a year, or is this years? We're talking plural from now. And the fact that all these manufacturing jobs are not a one-for-one, right? Manufacturing jobs abroad do not equal one manufacturing job in the US. Or it could be even a mix with technology now. A manufacturing job abroad could mean a job for a robot, a job for technology, or maybe a mix, maybe a couple jobs, US workers, and also some technology paired with it. So just a lot of uncertainty in that realm and the wait and see. Another thing I think that's trending and worth mentioning is folks out there that are looking, now's the time to maybe start a business, freelance, maybe continue education. And this leads to these trends, and some key findings that I wanted to just point out quick is, of course, side hustles maybe have taken a bit of a hit because of the return to work push and remote work becoming less common at startups. New business owners are also showing a preference for in-person work. So the tough job market is making entrepreneurship maybe more attractive for folks. There's been an increase in the percentage of entrepreneurs who started businesses because maybe them or their partner have lost a job. So entrepreneurs across generations are quickly embracing generative AI. And why? Because Gen AI is creating widespread productivity gains, right? They're able to use this as a productivity boost, a sign of a gigantic impact that could have on the economy in the years to come. And new business hiring is stronger. Startups are becoming an increasingly important source of jobs in today's sluggish, hiring economy. One example I'd like to share is there was this business that was right outside of Boston that we got to visit during spring break on our Boston employer treks. And this business came to our job and internship fair here in, I believe, February, right? And in the Mandela Room it was hosted by the Fleischman Career Center. And they were a startup company, and they had gotten acquired last November. And because of this influx of money and support from the acquisition, this company is on pace to double their engineering openings by the end of the year. So, of course, we jumped at the opportunity to take our students there, and we visited the company on our Boston treks in March over spring break. And we had just an amazing conversation with the founder, with the leadership team about the business, the culture. We were able to tour the facility. And I think this really gave a positive boost and impact to our students, and also to our staff alike, that there are companies out there that are still hiring at a really good pace. The next trend that I'd like to talk about is one that we've seen for a while in career services: the increased demand for skills over titles. Employers are focusing more on specific skills rather than these traditional job titles. Data analytics, AI proficiency, digital communications, all in high demand across industries. Fleischman Center we actually started a skills lab. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it equips these students with tangible, high in demand job skills and gives them a competitive edge. And the employers like this because they use this skills lab as an opportunity to teach students, but also to really give them good company information with an engaged audience. I also did some research with our career services side on most in-demand skills for 2025. Obviously, this is something we pay close attention to in the career services space. And just to share a few, is AI fluency, obviously a big one, digital literacy, digital transformation leadership. Its technology stands as the cornerstone of innovation and growth across industries, obviously, this year. And having the capacity and the knowledge and the proficiency in artificial intelligence is just as fundamental this year and the coming years as computer literacy. So definitely something you want to keep fluent in and learn about. And also with that, the perpetual learning agility. You want to be able to continuously acquire this new knowledge and integrate it because it will be a true factor in your career resilience, right? Also, complex problem solving. I think we talk about all these skills in AI, but don't forget those human traits, the emotional intelligence. We have the edge. As machines master routine tasks that humans were doing, the value of human traits is just going to skyrocket. The ability to read really subtle nonverbal cues and different things, psychological safety issues with teams will be very, very crucial in driving innovation and productivity. So those soft skills are super valuable. I put up just a few suggestions. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I do have a lot of different websites and stuff that I'll be sure to pass along to Steve to get to the group today. So those are Coursera, Grow with Google, Binghamton Alumni Network, which we're part of today, LinkedIn Learning, etc. Next bullet point I want to hit on really quickly is, like I said, articulating your value, clearly demonstrating how you take these skills and how you can apply them to the role that you are in fact applying for. Because there's so much AI in hiring and making your resume, you got to make it robot ready, right? They have applicant tracking systems. It's going to be scanned a bunch before it may even see a human at some companies. So making sure that you're getting your industry specific knowledge and language really, and using action verbs, really highlighting that in your resume, right? In your terminology, keeping formatting very simple, because you want to make sure that these ATS, that they can read that. Also, strategic hiring, connect your skills directly to the business outcomes. Give those specific examples. Now more than ever, that's important, right? Why can you do this, and how are you going to make the difference for us? Like I said previously, there's a lot of people applying for these roles. So whatever edge you can get is going to be very important. Also, learning from experts. Take the time to follow thought leaders on LinkedIn or any networks, and just staying up to date, leveraging your network. People still hire people, right? That so you still want to make sure that you're tapping into your networks, and obviously we're here to help as your alumni network. And just to wrap up, I wanted to give you some tools that we have here that are free to all of you as alums of Binghamton University. This is a few items. I'd like to highlight Mentor Match if you're not a part of that. It's a great resource, just got a new platform this year, and just a really great user-friendly platform and easy to navigate. So would encourage you to look into that. Some other things that we have: Handshake, Virtual Career Center, our career guide, resume and CV templates. Our website has a ton on it, along with Big Interview to help with some interview practice if maybe you haven't done it in a while or just want to brush up. Inner Stride is really powerful for up-to-date international hiring. And also Career Shift, which is a really comprehensive job search management system. So I know we went quick, I talked super fast, but wanted to get you as much info as possible so that we can get on to our next presenter. Here's a couple different ways to stay in touch with us at the Fleischman Career Center as well. We're on Instagram and LinkedIn. And I really appreciate the time today, and really happy to share some things that we're seeing here. And I hope to be able to help out in any way, and hope to see you at a future alumni event. So thank you very much.
I am very obviously not Dan Black, as you can see. He is up next, I can tell you for sure. But Felicia, thank you so much. It was certainly a great start to this webinar, and I was feverishly writing down a couple of things. One is a question I'll ask a little bit later. One is a homework assignment for myself, because you mentioned sharing out links, and that's certainly something we can do and send out to anyone watching the webinar today. We can keep track of who that is and get out any information that we want to send out. And some of the things that you shared on those last couple of slides are on the Career Central webpage that I talked about a little bit earlier on here in the webinar, and I can put that up again. And we'll send that out as well in the post-event email. But it's interesting about the AI and the flagging of people's resumes. And so I was helping out someone who's applying for a job, and I felt like, okay, turnabout is fair play. So if they're going to use AI, we can as well. And so go into ChatGPT and say, what are some buzzwords? Say, can you take this job posting, send the link, poof, add that in as a prompt. And then, what are some buzzwords based on this job posting that you recommend, so this thing gets flagged positively by the ATS, and just kind of further prompts along those lines. And I actually took a stab at writing the person's resume and rewriting it, based on language I thought the ATS would pick up. Whether or not it works or gave us something really super helpful remains to be seen. But maybe other job seekers are doing it as well. So, hey, if they are, you certainly don't want to be left behind. But AI has certainly changed a lot of things. I think we kind of missed the human touch that was part of these search processes up until this technology was invented. So more on that later, I'm sure. We'll say goodbye to you for a few minutes. And Felicia had promised Dan Black, and now here he is. And we will turn it over to you for the next part of the talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today. And I do not have slides. I'm typically very slide heavy, but for today, I wanted to be kind of in the moment and have you, feel the energy and the emotion here. So apologize for the glare, but that's what you're going to get for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. And for my section, what I really wanted to cover is, as I mentioned, I spent about 25 years of my career right up until last year working in talent attraction, talent acquisition, and recruitment. I was responsible, along with my team, for hiring about 100 people a year. And I have to say, I've seen it all. I've seen all kinds of job seekers, job landscapes and environments. I've seen ups and downs, economics uncertainty over the course of that 2.5 decades. And what I wanted to share with you today was really three things. First, I'll take you through some basics. So whether you're a job seeker voluntarily or not, whether you're impacted by lots of changes happening in the federal government or in the economy today, or you're someone that is either happy or at least content where you are today, but thinking that maybe down the road you might want to get out there a little bit, I'll share some of the basics on the things that you should be thinking about. And again, depending on your situation, whether you need to think about them quickly and get them right into action because you're actively looking for something different, or you need to look for something different, or whether it's a longer term plan. Second, I'll talk about beyond the basics, right? So some of the things I'll talk about, I think Felicia touched on a little bit, but we'll send you some other tips that I have found helped other job seekers. As you might imagine, in a role leading recruiting at a large organization, I get lots of people coming to me for advice on what they should be doing, what maybe things that other people aren't thinking of. To Steve's point, some kind of a competitive advantage you could get in a job market. So I'll share a handful of those. And then last but not least, we'll talk about some resources. So Felicia mentioned a couple. I'm going to share a few more, some that you will likely be aware of, but maybe some hidden gems that, whether you're looking now or will be in the future, might be of some assistance to you. So let's get underway. So first things first, what are some of the basics? And the most basic I can tell you to start off with is make sure that you have an updated resume and LinkedIn profile. And I say those now in one sentence because at this point in time, you absolutely need both. In many cases, you'll be asked for a resume in a formal application process, but your LinkedIn profile is your informal resume. It's the resume without a resume. It's what people will look at. I will tell you in the TA space, in the recruitment space, more often than not, when I'm being introduced to someone who is not an active job seeker or hasn't applied to a role yet, I'm being introduced to their LinkedIn profile. It's a condensed, a nice, tight summary of what their accomplishments are. It also tells me what industries they've been in, who they're connected to, their education. In essence, all those things that you typically find on a resume without having the formality of an attachment of the resume. So especially if you're an inactive job seeker, but even if you are active, having a LinkedIn profile is a must. To the point that Steve just made, yes, 100%. Use AI, use the resources available, use the Fleischman, the Career Center that's available to alumni for resources to create that resume. And maybe you've been in a role for a long time or at a company and your resume is, you haven't had one since you were a graduate, or it's been a long time since it's been updated. There are wonderful resources, absolutely free, resume builders, that have AI built into them that will really help you hone in and put your best foot forward on that one piece of paper. Likewise, you can use LinkedIn and or other technology to help you concoct and perfect that LinkedIn resume. I have to say that LinkedIn is really, really good about telling you how complete your resume is. I go in from time to time and that percentage will go from 100 to 70 something because there's a new feature that I haven't filled out yet, or an update on a board position I haven't done yet. So make sure you're updating that resume and LinkedIn profile. If you're not sure how to go about it, reaching out to take advantage of these resources is highly recommended. Number two, very closely behind that, is once you have those two things in place, is networking. And I have to remind people that are new to this or have been around the block quite a few times, networking has the word work right in it, and it's for a reason. I think there's a lot of people that don't like networking because it's time and effort, but more often than not, people tell me they just feel, quote unquote, I feel bad bothering someone. And And the fact of the matter is that networking should be connecting with people that you already, have some kind of connection to. Could be a loose connection, same alma mater, same neighborhood, et cetera. Or it could be a tighter connection, someone you've known a long time. And I always tell people networking starts, the best time to start networking is 10 years ago. But if you can't, start now. Start making those connections so that when you actually are hoping to get help for something like finding a job, you're not just coming out of the blue and saying, hey, can you do something for me? So the networking piece is about interacting with people and at regular intervals, and then providing value to them. Hey, here's an article I thought you might like, or hadn't touched base in a while, so you get a new job, just wanted to congratulate you. So that when the time comes that maybe they could help you because they work in an organization that you've applied to, or in a position that might be able to assist you in your job hunt, you're not out of nowhere now just coming with open hands and open arms saying, hey, can you help me out? The third thing, which is part of the basics, which I find some people miss, is actually researching target companies. So when I find, especially people that are recently and or suddenly out of work and looking for something else, they'll immediately go to a job board or LinkedIn or what have you to see what's out there and what's open, as opposed to, and that's absolutely fine, and you should do that, but also having a targeted approach to look proactively at organizations that fit, that are a match with your own cultural expectations and your work style, et cetera. And so for me, I've been at the same organization. I've worked at EY for 30 years, but there are times where I'm like wondering, hey, might there be something else out there? And my search never starts with a job board. I don't want to see what other open positions might be out there. I say, what are those organizations that have a good match? Their culture seems to be a good fit with my purpose and my vision and my work ethic. And I look at those organizations to see, on their websites, most companies will have, here's a careers page or an open jobs section that you can look at and browse. And if not, you can also make connections with people at those companies that say, hey, I don't know if there's anything open, but I've always thought I would love to explore a career at XYZ. If something becomes available, could you let me know? As a recruiter, as a talent professional at an organization, hearing from someone like, hey, I don't know if there's anything open, I just am real interested in your company, it's always better than job is open and resumes keep flooding in, many of which we're well aware are just people like, hey, I just want to get a job. It's not necessarily your company that I'm interested in. And then kind of last but not least is, and this one's really important on the basics, is create a job search schedule. Again, particularly if you're very suddenly out of a job, or there's a layoff, or it wasn't something that you had planned for, that can be a traumatic change to your schedule. And you should not feel bad about, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do with myself, and I have this free time, and maybe I'm freaking out a little bit. But I always tell people, the first thing to do is make a schedule. If you're a morning person, set aside 3 hours every morning from, while you're looking for work I'm going to do, LinkedIn browsing. I'm going to make some connections, make some phone calls, meet with this person in person to just pick their brain a little bit, and have specific time of day, just like you would be doing at a job with regularly scheduled meetings and appointments, et cetera. What that does is two things. Number one, it helps keep you on a schedule and keep you on track to do all these things that Felicia and myself and Dana will talk about. But number two, it gives you a sense of production and value add, right? Sometimes if the people I work with that don't have a schedule, and they're just kind of going about their day or doing other things, and then they just suddenly get reminded, I'm out of work and I should be doing something, because they hadn't scheduled a regular touch point, a regular section of each of their days to be doing the job search. The ones that do that feel like, yep, I know it's a situation that maybe I don't want to be in, or I'm in between jobs now, but I'm doing all the right things and the planning and the thoughtfulness and the proactivity to change that. So those are some basics. Let me talk to you a little bit about beyond when it comes to job search. And again, this pertains to whether you are actively looking for a job because you need or want one ASAP, or you're thinking about one down the road. And I would say probably the first one of those is consider other types of work. Maybe it's freelance work, maybe it's temporary work. And I'll share some resources in a minute. But I find that especially for people that have been in kind of a full-time, 9 to 5, 40, 50 hour a week work job, when they lose it, the first thing they think is, all right, let me replace that with an exact match. And the fact of the matter is there's lots of other things that you can do that maybe it's a part-time gig while you look for something more permanent. Maybe it's freelancing where it's full-time, but it's a different model where you're not going to be on the payroll. So consider other types of work beyond just what you had just come from. And likewise, maybe it's different types of organizations. So I work for a massive global company. Maybe if I was looking for work, I'd say, well, let me look for something a little bit more local or a little something smaller, entrepreneurial in nature, because I've done this. I'd love to bring that to bear on somewhere else. Second, and Felicia touched on this, so I won't drain this one, but focus on skills. What are those things that you are good at, that you like to do, and how do you, really put your best foot forward on what you are capable of doing? Felicia was spot on that looking for applicants now and filling roles goes so much more beyond just what your education was or your experiences was, but also what you're capable of doing. And so enhancing and being able to showcase what those skills are in a meaningful way, I would say LinkedIn is very good at helping you to do that because there's a specific section on skills, but you can also go into any of the basic AI platforms and put in a bunch of information about yourself, and it will suggest, hey, maybe these are some of your top skills. And then once you've reviewed those, you're being able to articulate those is really, really helpful. Next, consider job or professional associations. This is something that's a step that so many of my colleagues and friends that are looking for work that they miss this step. Most associations, so for me, I'll give my own example. I'm in human resources. Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM, is one of the primary, I guess, associations in the field. I will look and see when is their next meetup. Do they have a conference? Because at these events, it gives you a chance to network with other people in the field. And 9 times out of 10, you'll come across someone that is either looking to hire people or is you might be doing so in the future. So, and in addition, a lot of these associations also have open roles posted on their website. In my case, I work with the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE, which is for employing fresh graduates. But there's a section on the NACE website where, for looking for people that are recruiters or people that work in career services on college campuses. So joining those associations, typically it's a nominal fee, if any. They typically also have some free content available without any association fee. So definitely looking there. And last but not least, and I leave this one for last because I do want to make sure that it's important, and I want to leave you with this from a strategy standpoint. Remain positive and resilient, and that is not easy if you have lost your job or involuntarily. But I will say that comes through in the next stage. So come to grips. Maybe it's a couple of days or a week or so of really being upset or angry or the situation, et cetera. But then it's about, okay, pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And as you plan that schedule for the next stage and the next, part of your career, really approaching that with gusto and again, resilience and positivity, because that will come through in every networking call and meeting that you make. It certainly comes through the interview process. And the fact of the matter is, reductions in force, layoffs, changes, difficult economies, these things have been around since time immemorial. So if you're feeling like, gosh, I just feel terrible that I'm in this situation, it doesn't feel good, that's okay. But know that you're not the first person to be in the situation, nor will you be the last. And employers, your next employer wants to see that you're resilient, that you know how to overcome challenges and barriers. And like I said, dust yourself off and move forward. So with that, let me just share very quickly a couple of resources that that you might be leveraging as you're looking for your next potential role. There are some obvious ones, a little bit more mainstream. So we talked a lot about LinkedIn. Indeed is another great source. You've probably seen their commercials. I need this. Indeed, you do. It's a great source for open roles, et cetera. Glassdoor is another one, all one word, Glassdoor. And I'll share these with Steve. You can get these out to the participants afterwards. So if you haven't heard of that, Glassdoor is actually really famous for providing input and insight from actual employees of a company. So, you know, when you go to the employer's website, it's all the good positive stuff because it's their website they own. Glassdoor gives you a little bit more of a balanced look at what people say about working there. Believe it or not, Monster and Career Builder, they are still around. They still are, you know, they have job postings they can go and look at and find openings for. And Simply Hired is another one that it's a good job search engine I've pointed people to in the past with good results. Just a couple that you may not be aware of, a little less mainstream. Flex Jobs is a website that focuses on remote, part-time, and freelance roles. As I mentioned earlier, if you go on Flex Jobs, you might be able to find something. It's not a place a lot of people go because they're so focused on the next full-time gig. So Flex Jobs is one. Upwork is another one like that does similar things, freelance and short-term projects work. Remote.co is actually one that's all jobs that are remote only. So that's an interesting place. I know many people after the pandemic have gotten into a place where I like working remote. It's really been good for my family and my life. So remote.co is a good place to look there. And then last, Wellfound and Idealist are both websites that focus on corporate responsibility and startups and nonprofits. So if that's kind of you want to move out of, you know, maybe into one or more of those realms, both Wellfound and Idealist are areas where you could, you know, maybe find a job in the kind of the corporate responsibility realm. So I know I threw a lot out there at you. I know we'll have some questions, and Steve will come back and we'll get on to our next. But I just wanted to give you some thoughts around, hey, what's next, so that you have that plan moving forward.
Dan, thank you very much. A lot of great advice there, and some resources that we'll go ahead and be able to share out. Among them, the link to this session. So we do record and archive all of these webinars. That's a question that we are commonly asked. Hey, I was not able to watch it. Can I see it after? Or I watch it, but I want to go back and check a couple of things. And that's something we make available. And we'll put that link out there as well. But I'll just put this up just since I was talking about it here. And great advice about LinkedIn. And I think, you know, for a lot of people, sometimes myself included, you kind of set it and forget it. You know, like that thing with the rotisserie oven they used to sell in the infomercials way back. You set it and forget it. And not a lot of thought can be given sometimes to how to use it on an everyday basis. Because sometimes it's not really super obvious, because it's not like Facebook or X or Instagram. I took a cool picture, I'm going to share it. It's like, well, I'm not really looking, so why am I going on LinkedIn? Well, that's precisely the time to go and be there, because you want to throw some good energy out, and, you know, instead of like, I'm in it now, I'm ready to take, not give. There's a different energy behind that. So
that's right.
So thanks so much. We'll see you in a few minutes, and we will bring in Dana West. And Dana, take it over.
All right. Thank you, Steve. And really great advice from Dan and Felicia so far. So thank you. I'll look to keep us on time here. I can probably talk for an hour on any of these topics. So I'll really look to keep it short so we can leave some time at the end for Q&A. But really, this is an opportunity. Any time of change, any time of transition is to really look within. As a certified financial planner, it's my job to speak to typically individual people, help them figure out where they've been, where they're going. And I kind of term it under two different things: getting ready and staying ready. And often it takes a time of either difficulty or extraordinary new opportunities to really say, hey, I should probably figure out, you know, am I ready? And where am I going from here? So I'll talk about a couple things, mainly kind of stress testing your own situation as it currently stands, and then continuing to monitor it for the rest of your life, the rest of your days. Not something we typically take a lot of time on. As you can imagine, I do it every day. We'll talk a little bit about estate planning. We'll talk a little bit about beneficiaries, allocation, kind of the location of your assets. But really just kind of figuring out, okay, can I withstand the change that I foresee? And if I really stress test my situation, can I get through whatever the future might bring? And that's really the essence of planning. I know everyone has their own situation. I've never come across somebody that has the exact same situation as somebody else. So this is really for you to say, all right, here's one or two things that I want to take care of when I'm doing webinars for mid or large size companies, both domestic and globally. Part of my job is to educate at work sites. So this is kind of the stuff that I talk about. And I said, don't try to accomplish everything. Don't try to absorb everything. Don't take notes on everything. 2, maximum of 3 things. So, you know what? I haven't thought about that recently. I should probably take a closer look at it. Or, you know what? I've never thought about that during this time of what we presume to be transition of everybody here participating in this call. And thank you for taking time out to join us. Now would actually really be a good time for me to figure out how did I get here and where am I going from here? And that covers a lot of different areas. And I won't talk for 3 hours. I assure you, we all want to all want to stay on time. So when I talk about stress test, let's look at a couple things. Let's look at our emergency funds. So do we have enough kind of quickly available money, typically cash, typically at a bank, but easily what we call liquid savings, usually that aren't subject to the wildly unpredictable markets. So we don't want to dip into our 401k if we don't need to. We don't want to dip into our brokerage account if we have one, and that's floating all over the place. A lot of volatility there. Typically, we're talking about bank accounts. Typically, we're talking about FDIC. Typically, we're talking about checking or savings, something that is just there when we need it, not too much, not too little. And how do we really kind of figure out, well, what's the right amount? For a dual income household, that even may go down to a 1-income household. That's why we have an emergency fund, is that we're talking generally about 3 months of spending. So if you look at your spending, most of us don't. So let's say, you spend $3,000 a month for, let's make it 5. If you spend $5,000 a month, we would need about $15,000 in easily accessible, ready to go savings. And what does that cover? That covers all of our mandatories, our rent or mortgage, keeping the lights on, feeding ourselves, kind of the boring stuff, right? So that's the wants. We want to make sure that we have enough covered in the wants. We could also scale back. So take another look at that $5,000 number. What if we can reduce our spending on the fun stuff a little bit? We don't want to live on bologna sandwiches every day, but maybe we won't be traveling as much. Maybe we won't be going to as many concerts, whatever that is for you. So maybe scaling back a little bit on the fun stuff, which is the wants. So take a look and see if you're going to categorize those 2 things for yourself. If you're going to look at your cash flow or budget, whatever you want to call it. How much am I spending on the stuff that I need to spend on, and how much am I spending on the stuff that I want to spend on, and what kind of emergency fund would I need for that? So that's a dual income household. In a single income, we typically want twice as much. Now I know that, so about 6 months of your total spending for every month that you would need to get by to kind of float you from, all right, I'm doing okay, to I'm having some difficulties for whatever reason. And how am I going to get by? Six months, if plausible and if feasible, to have in readily accessible, not floating around, typically cash, typically FDIC emergency fund. So that's kind of the first in figuring out. All right, if things are about to go wrong, or if things are in process of going wrong, do I have enough set aside to kind of float me through? That's where emergency fund comes in to play there. Now's a good time to be looking at if you're still employed, and we're not talking about, okay, I was either chosen to or not, involuntarily laid off. Now would be a good time to be thinking about getting a credit line with a bank, or possibly or preferably with the one you're already doing business with, either checking and saving CDs, or if you already have a mortgage with this company, they're probably most willing to take a look at you and offer you a credit line. That means you have equity in your home. That means you own, right? So that's not for everybody. But you want to do that while you're employed, because they're going to be doing, a mini version of your mortgage app, which can be tedious and includes running your credit. That's important. They want to know that they're getting paid back, but also they're looking at your income. So if your income is good now, whether that's pre-retirement, pre-job change, you want to look at the longest standing period of, I've been employed for a while, I have a predictable income, I'm creditworthy. Now would be a good time to consider, if you choose to or need to, getting a credit line, which could also be known as a second mortgage. But there's a few different flavors out there. We just want to make sure we're not getting charged unless we're pulling some money out, right? So that could be available $50,000, right? If you don't pull any money out, you're not getting charged interest on anything unless you start taking money out. So a credit line on that. And along what I was just saying, you also want to also check your credit report. If anything is not great, if your credit has been, if your identity's been stolen, now's a good time to be fixing all those things up. Typically, your next employer might be looking at your credit, and if your own credit problems are not your own, now would be a good time to fix it instead of arguing with your soon-to-be, hopefully, employer. So making sure that all those things are sorted out, and then talking about a contingency plan from there. Are there certain things that could go worse than that? I hope not, but would we need to sell a property? Would we need to change states? Would we need to do this, that, or the other? Now's a good time to be thinking about that, not because we're negative, but because we want to kind of think of what is our best case scenario, what is our worst case scenario, and not to get caught by surprise. If something happens that you said, oh, you know what, I thought about that, and I am ready to do what I need to do to get me to down the road. So all those things kind of revolve around stress tests, contingency plans, having money available, credit line, credit report. Let's talk a little bit about the allocation. So if you haven't looked at your retirement account, which is probably the largest asset you might own outside of your home, if you're a homeowner, if you've been working at the same company for a long period of time, that money has probably grown without you thinking too hard about it, if you're properly positioned. But if you were maybe aggressive last year, do you still want to be aggressive this year? Do you want to be aggressive through a job change? Do you want to be aggressive through a retirement? Now's a good time to be thinking about, oh, you know what? I haven't checked the portal in a while. Let me go check out my 401k. Don't be afraid. It might not be the same value that it was a couple months ago, but take the time, be confident, be bold, and say, you know what? Okay, this is exactly where I want it to be, or I should be making changes. Now is not the time to be hiding on that either. So take a look. If you were, aggressive, conservative, moderate, taking a look and seeing what your overall allocation is on your assets. Probably your 401k or 403b is probably one of your larger assets. Do pay attention to it. Do kind of think of where you want to be through that transitional period. And the answer could be just the same. I looked at it. It's perfect. It's exactly where I want it to be. Sometimes with planning, the answer is do absolutely nothing. Educate yourself on it and say, let's take a look at it in the next period of time when I decide to do that again. Along those lines, you also want to consider the location of your assets. So if you have worked 5 different jobs and you forgot about the 401k from 20 years ago, same story. Make sure it's in the proper thing, doing the proper thing. But do also consider consolidation for your own mental well-being, that you don't have to look at 5 different things, 5 different portals. Let's be honest, we're probably not doing that very often, if at all. So do kind of understand where things are at. Having too many things in too many different places, 5 banks, 5 old 401ks. Let's be clear, we're probably not spending a whole lot of time looking at those things all that often, if ever. So a little bit of self-honesty is helpful in looking through these things and really determining where are they and should I be doing anything. Again, having too many different places with our assets can be problematic. And then lastly, as we're kind of talking through 401ks, take a look at your beneficiaries. Maybe you set it up 10 years ago when you were married, and maybe you're not, and your ex-wife is your primary beneficiary. Do you want that? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. Take a look from time to time. Is your life insurance correct and accurate, and the beneficiaries, are those correct? Maybe yes, maybe no. Now's a good time to be kind of thinking about those things. Everything's perfect. Great. Move on. You don't have to look at it all that often. But also when we're talking about beneficiaries, we want to take a look a little bit about our estate plan. So if you are married, you have a little bit more protection. Typically, you're going to give each other your assets, if something terrible and permanent happens to one of you. But when we're talking estate planning, typically people are thinking about, all right, well, that's kind of the end of the road. I'm gone. People can figure out where my assets go. Sometimes I have it written down. Sometimes I don't. Really, the kind thing for me as a planner is to have everything written down. So we're talking have a will, Maybe trust work is required. So really kind of take care of those things while you might have a pause and have some time to be really pondering on them. But the other half of estate planning for me is living benefits. So a lot of estate planning docs, which we presume are dead and gone kind of things, are really for your own well-being of any age. So healthcare proxy, making sure if you're not able to care for make your own health decisions. Landing in a hospital can, happen at any age, from 0 to 100. Do you have the right people lined up to make your decisions for you health-wise if you were to land in a hospital and can't make that decision for yourself? Incapacity or anything like that. So that's one. So that's for your own benefit, regardless of age. And then the other is the temporary power of attorney. Somebody to make your typically financial decisions, open and close bank accounts, to make changes to your brokerage holdings, things like that. Really, whatever powers you give to them through a power of attorney. And typically that would be a financially astute individual who's going to be able to pay your bills for you, log on with passwords that you provided to them to make some of those changes if need be. If you're not able to do that for yourself. So those are really living benefits. I would say that when it comes to estate planning, it kind of comes half-half with, things that are good for you today and things that would be good for your heirs if something kind of terribly bad happens. So those are kind of the big things that I'd be thinking about. I would not try to cover all of them. Just kind of think to yourself, all right, I've got some of that good stuff squared away. I love when people tell me, I'd never thought about that. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. So that's kind of the fun stuff, and why I love doing these webinars for any length of time, either 15 minutes or an hour, just kind of talking through with people and helping them figure out, where do they stand? If something were to change, and now's a great time to be thinking about, if something were to change job, lack of job, do I have a lot of these things covered that if something went wrong, am I prepared for it? Am I kind of ready? And if something did happen within reason or outside of the realm of reason, do I know what to do? And a lot of those things will give you the peace of mind to say, all right, you know what? I didn't see that one coming, but I kind of prepared for it. I took a close look at my overall circumstances, and if something, moderately good happened and moderately bad happened, I'm good. And if something even better or worse happened than that, I saw it coming, and I'm prepared for it. So that's really kind of the essence of planning, to figure out getting ready, staying ready. And that's unfortunately or fortunately a lifetime project. So once you stay ready, you have to say, all right, well, here's a new set of circumstances my way, whether it's a change to your age or your health or just things you have no control over. All those things can be really important. I've offered to Steve, a couple hours of pro bono time. If anybody wants to take me up on it, you're welcome to call. My direct line is 914. If you're taking notes, 914 area code 400-7214. I typically don't pick up numbers I don't recognize. Nothing personal. So just leave me a voicemail. Tell me on my voicemail that you saw me on this and that you'd be happy to take me up on a free hour of just one-on-one consult. I'll be happy to share my time with you there. If you prefer to email me, you can email me at dana.west, DANA.WEST @prudential.com. I'd be happy to share my time with you there. So your choice, email or phone, totally up to you. But that's really the essence of thinking about how did you get here and where are you going from here. So take a few things. Don't try to squeeze all of them, and set yourself a deadline to kind of get through whatever you find important to you. It's been a pleasure being here, and I will hand it back to you, Steve. Thanks so much.
Dana, thanks so much. And we'll just chat here for a second or two, just to keep this up on the screen for those who want to jot it down. And then also the phone number as well. So definitely take Dana up on it. He offers it, and not a lot of people jump on it. So go ahead and take advantage of the offer. And although we're coming up on 1 o'clock, we're going to bring in Felicia back on the screen. And Dan, and we'll have the promised Q&A time, as we definitely want to hit some of the questions and comments that have come in during the course of the last hour or so. So the first one, this comes from Danielle. watching us live today. She's wanted to ask about researching mentors as well as advice on finding or reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn. She asked, is it wise to do so, and what might that look like as at the first point of contact? Take it away, anybody.
I'll take a first stab at that one. So, yeah, I mean, most people have mentors, and I always recommend, in addition to having mentors at the company you work, having those outside. They tend to be valuable and have a different lens. So certainly you want to rely on them. And I am the first port of call for lots of my friends when they're looking for roles, because they know I'm in the field. So definitely would recommend that. As for recruiters, I would say it really does depend on your seniority. I find that people that are kind of 5 years or less out of university, kind of newer employees, tend not to need to have the help of a recruiter. And by the way, those recruiters tend to spend more of their time, generally speaking, on people that have more seniority, because they get hired by companies to recruit for, more senior level. Otherwise, the companies could do it themselves. So if you're kind of 6-7 years out and beyond, and you want to look for a recruiter to help you, fairly easy to find. Recruiters like to make themselves easy to find. So there are some big recruiting agencies, Robert Half and a few others that you could browse and find someone there. But more helpful is having someone who's in the field that you may know, might be in one of your second or third LinkedIn connections that you could do for that. The other thing, real quick, is if you're on LinkedIn and you're a Binghamton graduate, there is a section on your LinkedIn page where you can go and find other Binghamton graduates who are either in your field, in your area of study from when you're at school, and what they're doing now. I know I can speak for Dana and Felicia and Steve on this one. When I get a request from someone I don't know, but who went to Binghamton, I am infinitely more likely to accept that request than I am for someone that came from me out of the blue, did not go to Binghamton, did not work at EY. So that it does not hurt to put some of the feelers out there when you have that connection.
Absolutely. Definitely true for me. If I see you're in the Binghamton universe and we've never met before, I'm much more inclined to. In fact, I don't think I've turned down a single person ever, just because I think that's a good energy to accept all of those. Felicia, anything that you'd want to say to tack on to that? I can go on to the next comment or question, but I want to offer that up.
No, I think Dan covered it, especially from the recruiting perspective. And I would just echo the LinkedIn. For sure. There's so many resources out there, and especially with the alumni network. Never met an alum that's like, no, don't really want to engage. Usually it's the exact opposite.
I'll add one point to that, by the way. I think last time I checked that LinkedIn took away the ability to send a note for a new connection as to why you know them and why you'd like to connect with them to a paid service as part of their Premier LinkedIn paid service. I would consider paying for that for a couple months so I could blast out some new invites. So anytime I get a non-note, I don't want to do the job of figuring out why do I know you and where are you from. So I typically don't accept those. But if I got a note from, hey, I'm a recent Binghamton graduate, and I noticed you're in my area, and I'm really interested in talking about financial planning, and I'm thinking about being a planner. Can you accept me in your network? Yeah, totally done. So I would say that, LinkedIn Premier or whatever it is not the best value otherwise, in my opinion, for what I need it for. But if that's the only thing that I use it for, is to be able to add notes on an invite, I would totally do it. That's what I would do.
Certainly a great point. I'm sure some people get so many of these requests, especially from outside of their universe, that you get worn down. And so don't make me have to go and figure out why we have something in common. If it's super obvious right from the jump, it's probably better for everyone. This is more of a comment than a question. It comes from Seth. So thank you for sending this. He was talking about a website called comparably.com. Provides info on employee satisfaction, corporate culture, ratings of the CEO, and employee reviews. It says it's helpful for researching companies to see if their values align with yours, kind of like Yelp for employers, comparably.com. So something wanted to get out there in front of people. And the next question is probably more for Felicia, because this ties into one of the things you had on the slides about entrepreneurship. And so kind of curious to get a sense of what types of startups tend to work out well, because you think about if somebody is and during a career transition, they get let go. So it's not something they initiated, maybe not really ready for. And now money is tight, and it could make it hard to do some moves like starting a business. And so, are the startups that are successful in situations like that things that you can put together without a whole lot of overhead because you can't spend a lot? You've got to keep that money for your everyday living.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's something that's really different and totally dependent on your situation, right? I think that if you are looking into doing something like that, maybe getting out there and really researching what others have done, some different startups that maybe you're interested in, maybe that niche kind of area. I would really look into that and maybe get some advice from those in that area, because it is a lot to undergo and to take. If it's something that you kind of had on the back burner, like I've always wanted to do this, and if the time ever come, that's when I would go and put everything into it. Then I'd say, hey, go with that idea, because that's been kind of your passion. But if it's something that you're just going to try out and you don't really know how to navigate it, or maybe didn't have this passion or research for, then I would definitely suggest using a network, asking a lot of questions, because it's a big undertaking, and depending on what the startup is, it could be a big financial undertaking. So you really want to make sure that you have all of that planned out as much as possible.
Thank you. We have time for one more question, and I think this is probably best suited for Dana. The question would be pertaining to clients that you have, and do you tend to see people who are, let's just say, advanced enough in age or career, and they get let go from a position, and instead of going into another job search, they just say, what, maybe I'm just going to retire. I don't really want to keep going any longer. But maybe they're not fully ready to retire yet, because they were counting on working a few more years, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and exit. Do you see a fair amount of clients like that? And then also, just kind of as a side question to that, for somebody that could be in an age set where it's a little bit borderline like that, what sorts of moves would you suggest that they make to be proactive?
Yeah, great question, Steve. I'll kind of say broadly that generally you want to make that thoughtful decision before you kind of jump out. I see, unfortunately, too many people that say, hey, listen, I made this big change. Was it a good idea? I don't like talking about things that, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news that, no, it was not a good idea, and no, you can't go back to it. We like to be a little proactive on seeing how things might work out. So we would run some contingency and say, all right, listen, if our new input is not retirement at 65 or 67 or 63 or whatever number you said, hey, what happens if I retire at 58? Well, we just plug those numbers in, and we say, okay, well, we carry it forward, and this is what it now looks like versus what it used to look like. And sometimes the answer is great. Yeah, you can retire at 58 or 53 or whatever the answer is because of this. You might need to make these changes to make that successful for you. But in general, let's look at the data. That's one of the few times that I'm really data driven and not solving just generally detective problems. Let's look at the data. All right, if our hard data change is not life expectancy change or health change, just plug in what's my new retirement date and what is that going to look like. I am always most concerned about, all right, well, how does that look at the tail end when we can't do anything about it? If you're going to make it out to 90 and you can only pay your bills to 83, that's going to be a problem. So we kind of start at the longest end first and backtrack from there. As far as what you should do while you are employed, you may choose to ramp up your retirement contributions if that's something you wanted to do. Like I said earlier, you may choose to have a credit line available to you if you think you're going to need to do some home renovations to prep for selling your house, just for example. Have some funds available outside of that. Could be contributing to your health savings account, HSA, while you can. Typically, it revolves around taking advantage of the often multitudes of benefits that your employer is offering to you now that once you're out the door are no longer available to you. So let's kind of take a look and see if there's some things that you didn't even know that was available. Let's look at your benefits package and see if there's some things we can or should do between now and then.
I think that's a good place to wrap this up. And I just want to say thank you once again to Felicia, Dan and Dana for spending this time with us, not only the hour for the live show, but also the prep time for today's program and sharing your expertise with everyone. I know all three of you are very, very passionate about wanting to help alumni and wanting to help students and do this in a variety of ways and always say yes whenever we ask you to do something. So thank you again for doing this. And we put this together quickly because we recognized there was tremendous need for it. And it was something that people were asking for. And so it was sort of quickly produced television, as the saying goes. But it's always great when we can be responsive. And one thing I say a lot, and it certainly applies to this, is that like if we helped like at least one person with something today, as important as this, it was worth it for me to leave the house and get this program going. And I think all three of you would do the same, feel the same way about it. So thank you again very, very much.
Thanks, Steve.
And we'll just wrap it up quickly. One thing before we go, I wanted to mention, just give a shout out to Jennifer Gabriel, my co-producer here on the Binghamton Learning Network webinar series. She is very helpful in the day-to-day management of this program. And so, Jen, thank you very much. She doesn't really get a lot of fanfare and never appears on camera, but the work she does is very important to the success of this program. And I personally am very, very grateful for that. And just want to put a plug in, since Dana was on this webinar with us and he's chair of our Lifelong Learning Committee, I'd be remiss if I didn't promote Tier Talks, which is coming up at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, June 3rd. And the program is titled, Will I Eat Today? Food Insecurity in 2025. So if you ask yourself, what will I eat today? You're in a very, very fortunate, dare I say, privileged position where for some the question is, will I eat today? Which is a very, very different set of feelings around that, different set of circumstances. And so food insecurity is something that is around us, whether we think about it or not. And this panel of three alumni is going to dive into this topic. We'll hear from an alum who is a leading researcher in this field, an alumna who is here in Binghamton and working on food insecurity through a neighborhood gardens program, and a current graduate student at UNC in Chapel Hill who is a class of 2004 Binghamton graduate, 2024 Binghamton graduate. And she had researched food insecurity during her undergraduate time here, part of a group of students. They did a poster session and inspired her work as a public health graduate student at UNC. And so all three of them will be talking about food insecurity. That's Tuesday, June 3rd, 5:30 Eastern is the start time for this live program. Interactive as usual in the Tier Talk style. We'll take your questions and check out our website, binghamton.edu/alumni. You have the link there for Career Central, but also the link to go ahead and find our events calendar and register for the Tier Talks event. Really, really would like to have you with us for that program. So we'll wrap it up for all of our panelists, and for Jen Gabriel, I'm Steve Seepersod. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next webinar.